Hey guys, welcome to this video. Today we're going to be talking about SWOT analysis. So what is SWOT analysis? SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Lots of people who don't really understand SWOT analysis consider it to be irrelevant and a waste of time, and I strongly disagree with that. SWOT analysis can be used to ascertain how competitive a business is in its industry, and could also help it develop strategies that you can use to actually become more competitive in your industry. So how do you draw out a SWOT analysis? To draw out a SWOT analysis, you actually have a box that's divided into 4 different quadrants. In your top left corner, you have your strengths. In your bottom left corner, you have your weaknesses. And in your top right corner, you have your opportunities, and you have your threats in the lower right corner. It is very important to understand what these different attributes talk about when it comes to your business. So let's jump right into it. And let's talk about strengths. What are your strengths? It's very important, before you list all your strengths, it's very important to understand what a strength actually is. For example, if I say, I have a beautiful wedding venue, that's not necessarily a strength. Well, it would be a strength if all the other wedding venues in your industry are just ugly and unappealing, but I doubt if that's the case. So saying you have a beautiful wedding venue is not necessarily a strength. Now, on the flip side, if you say, I have a beautiful venue that has a gorgeous natural view, that could be a strength, because that is an attribute that is that your business has that you can't just easily replicate in another business in the same industry. An important aspect when listing your strengths is that even though you may have a strength that may put you at a better advantage than your competition, it's important to not rest on your laurels and actually try to find a way to enhance your strengths to even make you more competitive in your industry. A good example is Amazon. One of Amazon's strengths is they got it through the Amazon Prime, the 2-day delivery. It became such a strength that, not having Amazon Prime was actually a strange thing, or not having Amazon Prime right now, it could be considered a strange thing, right? So with Amazon Prime, they were able to get you your products a whole lot quicker than most other online retail stores. Now, they didn't rest on that. They actually went further and improved that service by actually becoming a logistics company and a shipping company. I know you've probably noticed some of those gray Amazon Prime cars that drive through your neighborhoods. That was a way to actually make their service and their delivery a whole lot better and a whole lot more accurate. Amazon was able to revolutionize their logistics part of their business and their shipping part of their business, that they're even being considered to help out in the vaccine distribution for COVID-19, which is really amazing. So to conclude on your strengths, it's important to understand that your strengths are those things that actually make you better than your competition. They're the advantages that you have over your competition. Also, strengths, just like weaknesses, are those things that affect your company internally. They are things that you can actually use your internal strategy to fix. Weaknesses. When listing your weaknesses in the SWOT analysis chart, it's important to be honest with yourself. It's important to list those things that you know make you inferior to your competition. And that way, you're able to develop a strategy to possibly overcome those weaknesses. A good example is actually McDonald's. McDonald's have a weakness in the fact that most of their choices are unhealthy. However, they recognized this weakness several years ago, and they started implementing some more health conscious choices on their menu, like salads and milk and things like that. So they recognized that weakness, and they were able to turn that weakness and fix the problems that they have. So if you're a healthy choice eater, you can actually go to McDonald's and not feel like you always have to get unhealthy food. Another example is actually Amazon. Amazon actually did have a huge weakness initially. Matter of fact, most online retailers have this weakness. One of the weaknesses of buying things online is, first of all, mismatching in sizes. It's very difficult compared to a brick and mortar store to actually see if an outfit, an apparel that you buy online actually fits. So when they identified this weakness, they made moves and made some changes to make that weakness become something in the past by making easy and free returns on things that don't fit. So you can easily return an item from Amazon that you buy, sometimes even more easier than actually going to a local retailer to buy apparel. So that is one way, in addition to the example of McDonald's, that you can actually take a weakness and actually act on it, and it could become a strength depending on how much strategy you apply towards fixing it. Opportunities. These are the external things that your firm or company could take advantage of. And going back to the Amazon example, there was a need and a demand for things to be shipped out faster. So instead of waiting and depending on UPS and USPS and FedEx, they decided to create their own logistics company. So now they have a better control and are able to deliver things as accurately as they would want. So they took an opportunity of that growing demand and made the best of it. Threats. Just like opportunities, threats are an external factor that can affect your business. A good and more recent example is the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 is a threat to most businesses, but not all businesses like Zoom and Amazon. But to most other businesses, especially a business like mine that is pretty much in the wedding industry, COVID-19 became a huge devastating effect, and that caused a lot of loss of business for people in the wedding industry. So we were able to identify that threat early on in the beginning of the pandemic. So we decided to lean on our mortgage holders, and were able to renegotiate a freeze in our mortgage payment obligations. So that helped us to be able to cushion the blow of loss of business and canceled weddings and reduced guest sizes. So that is one way you can identify a weakness, and instead of just listing that weakness, you can make moves that can actually affect or cushion the blow of the incoming weakness. And your threats are listed in the bottom corner of the SWOT analysis graph. So when do you do SWOT analysis? SWOT analysis is important to do when you are in a business manager meeting or just having a meeting with the important people in your company. You want to be able to bounce off ideas. You want to be able to get some good feedback so you can perfectly identify what you think your strengths are, what your weaknesses could be that you can solve internally. You also want to be able to look at upcoming threats that you may not be thinking about, and also opportunities that you can take advantage of. So we're going to work towards actually creating a SWOT analysis graph, and I'm going to use different examples from different companies just to give you an idea of how a SWOT analysis is actually done. So when it comes to our strengths, what are some things that are strengths of different companies, right? So strengths could be, if you're a coffee shop owner, it could be that you know how to make coffee cheaper. So if you know how to make coffee cheaper, just because you're using some strategy that's unknown to other people in the industry, you can sell your coffee for a lot cheaper than the competition. Making faster deliveries. That is something that obviously Amazon has championed. And there's not a retail company around right now that can beat Amazon to that. So that is a strength. And for like a wedding venue, is if you have a beautiful natural view. That is something that cannot be replicated, and as such, it's a strength of yours. So what are things you want to think about doing when you have a strength, right? If you're a coffee maker, you can offer incentives, buy one, get one, 2 coffees, or you can have punch cards that give people even more incentive to come And in that way, you're harnessing the strength that you have. And as a venue, one of the ways that you can actually harness your beautiful view is planting a beautiful garden around it to even make that view even more appealing. That is how you work on your strengths and make your business stronger. Next, let's give an example of some weaknesses of some companies. Not easily accessible. That could be a weakness of a coffee shop, because most coffee shops are usually better suited either in the middle of a college where most people are studying and needing some caffeine and things like that, or in a busy business district. So not easily accessible or being in a bad location could be a weakness. So what are things you can do to overcome that? You can have big giant signs that direct people to the coffee. You can offer cheap alternatives and actually do more in your marketing to get people to actually go out of their way to stop at your coffee shop. Another weakness, especially for my venue, is a confined space. Every time we have a wedding and somebody who wants over 300 clients, sometimes we lose out on that business because we're completely unable to increase the size of the building to meet an increased guest count. However, that is a weakness that we really don't actually cater to because it's not something we can actually change in the short term or even in the long term. So we just essentially accept it as a weakness and focus on making sure that the people focus on other strengths that we can use to still engage the target market that we are looking for. And then the weakness for Amazon could be sizing problems. That is something that I always thought about. I hated buying clothes and having to return it, in the past. Now I'm used to it. But sometimes it's a whole lot easier to actually go in the store and try on an outfit to see how it looks and then just go home with it. Opportunities. A new 4-year college. If you are thinking about building a coffee shop and you also know that a 4-year college is about to be built at a certain location, having a coffee shop close to that location is actually an opportunity. So you take advantage of that opportunity because you know a new 4-year college is going to bring thousands of people that would probably be in demand for some coffee. A global pandemic. Like I told you earlier, a global pandemic could be a threat. It could also be an opportunity. Think about the company Zoom. A global pandemic has actually made it a more competitive company. And they took advantage of that and started offering freebies and giving free 45-minute sessions and things like that. It's also an advantage to online retailers because if most people are stuck at home, they do their shopping from the comfort of their own computers. So an online retailer probably thrives better than a brick and mortar store in a global pandemic. So again, somebody's threats could actually be an opportunity in a whole different industry. And it's important to identify those things. A migration boost. This could be an advantage for me in my wedding industry, in my wedding venue. Because if there's a huge migration, say for example, a huge factory like Google or Apple decide to build a development center in my city, I know that is going to increase the influx of people who could potentially want to get married. So if they decide to move to my city, that's a bigger clientele than I have. And that's an opportunity. So the best way to take advantage of that opportunity is make sure you're open to start marketing to those people as they come in. And lastly, threats. If we discover that coffee leads to an increased chance of cardiac arrest or heart disease, that would adversely affect the coffee industry as a whole and also your local coffee shops. Identity theft. Identity theft could be a huge deterrent from people spending money online on online retail shops. So that could be something that could adversely affect all online retailers if there's an increase, a heightened threat of identity theft. A recession. A recession pretty much affects most businesses, but actually not all businesses get affected by a recession. But in the wedding industry, for example, where people actually spend discretionary income, a global recession or even a localized recession could be a huge reduction in demand and can adversely affect your business. So it's very important for you to be cautious of these things and find a way to weather the storm when you see them coming. And that's exactly how to make a SWOT analysis. You sit down with your team and you discover or try to figure out ways you can actually improve your strengths, kill all your weaknesses, attack opportunities, and also shelter yourself against threats. Thanks for watching this video. See you next time.